Hello, YouTube. All right, so this is Mahadeva, aka the Thunder Wizard, aka Michael William Denny, who was a Hollywood actor for how long was I in Hollywood? 10 years. And I had the honor of being involved in the casting of the movie The Matrix. Now, I was a young actor at the time, and I had a theater company that I had co-founded, and I was writing plays and producing. We actually had quite a successful theater company. We got a lot of good press, and actually, people went on from that theater company to, have careers in movies and television. A lot of us didn't make it. I'm one of the ones that didn't make it, as you can tell, at least not yet. But I wanted to share with you some of my experience in that and some of the other stuff that I did. I was just going to put up a video, but I decided, some people might want to actually ask questions, so I made it a live. I know it's Australia 5:43 in the evening, so probably not a whole lot of people are awake in the rest of the world. But anyway, I'll go ahead and share my experience with that. So the first Matrix film, that was the one that I was involved in. All right, so let me tell you what I did. I did audition. Obviously, I didn't get any parts in it, and I worked as what is called a reader. So, and I'm going to share with you all of the insider stuff that was going on. I'm going to share with you all the dirt and let you know why Hollywood is just such a steamy, stinky pile of, one of the reasons I left was just because it's just, you got to have such a thick skin if you're not really lucky and make it right off the bat to just to go through the politics and the sleaziness of it all. It just wears you down. It's just no fun at all. So I'm going to tell you some cool insider gossip of what was going on and what it's like. So if there's any people out there wondering what it's like to go to Hollywood and become an actor, I'm going to tell you what it's like. I seriously doubt it's changed a whole lot other than, people don't walk around with headshots anymore. They probably just email, digital shots to whomever and email their resume, and text their resume, PDFs. Back then, you actually had to carry it around with you everywhere you went. So I'll share with you my experience with that, and I'll share with you my experience casting and being cast in a small role in the movie Hellraiser Inferno. And I'll share with you a video that I don't even have. I wish I had stuff. It's all in storage somewhere. But I made a film myself. My last hurrah was to make a film myself and take it to film festivals. And let's see, there's something else. It'll come up in the photos that I got. So I scoured whatever photos I had way back then, and I'll share them with you. So this had to have been 1998. Might have been 97, but it was 97 or 98. It wasn't any later than that for sure. And the reason I know that is because back then, the way I remember it is that when you went into production for a movie, it took about a year before the movie actually ended up on the screen. So if you start shooting about a year later, it's going to end up on the big screen. Or in my case, my big movie ended up going straight to video. Which, by the way, if you want to, you can go on YouTube right now and look at it. You can type here on YouTube for Shadow Glories, and then I think it's Final Fight. And it's on video. It's on DVD. If you look for it, you can. It's called The Fight. In case you wanted to know what it was about, I'll talk about that too. So you can look for that on YouTube if you want. You want to see me acting. There's some other stuff in that same Shadow Glories. I think there's at least a trailer that I'm in, something like that. But I had a pretty decent part in that movie. Anyway, so this was about 1997, 1998. So I was about 35-ish, and a lot of crazy stuff had gone down in my life. I mean, I had graduated from college with a BA in theater. By that time, I had been in college 8 years. I went for 4 years and then bailed, and then went back for another 4 years and got my degree in theater. And then we started a handful of friends of myself. We left and we co-founded a theater company in Hollywood, which is still there, but nobody there even knows I exist. And it was called The Open Fist. Now the funny story is I didn't know at the time. That was my idea. And we had this poster and it had a picture of a fist coming out like this with a hand like that, and all this. Anyway, that was my idea. I didn't realize until later that was actually a term used in homosexual sexual activity. But I wanted to give this idea of grasping for something and being, Anyway, so that was the name that we ended up choosing, and so I was doing that, and I was teaching there. I was teaching acting there, and I was acting in main stage, and I was auditioning for films and television, and I was working 2 jobs. I worked doing graphic design, which back then if you wanted a resume, you had to go to somebody who sat behind a computer and then typeset your resume and then printed it out, and then you could take that and go make copies. So I did that, and then I did fire extinguisher repair, which is I had a pickup truck, and you have all this these stuff in the back of your pickup truck, and I would go and check going up and down stairs in apartment buildings, and refilling the the yellow powder that they put into the things. And so I'm doing that, and we had beepers back then. We didn't have cell phones back then. We had beepers. And so if I was on the job, I would get a beep, 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 and I'd look, and if I knew what the number was, I knew I had to go and get an audition. So sometimes I'd just have to call, or they'd give you the stuff, and I'd race off to the audition for whatever film or movie or TV spot it was, or whatever like that. And so this is how I look. So if you've seen The Matrix, of course, there's Keanu Reeves, and they had already decided that they were going to cast Keanu Reeves. Now I was an actor. I was not a famous actor, but I was a working actor, and I knew the casting director. So if she was very famous at the time. Her name was Mally Finn, and I knew her because her husband taught at Cal State University Fullerton, where I got my degree in theater. And so his name was Don Finn, and I don't know if they were divorced or they were separated. They weren't living together, but they still had a strong relationship. I still to this day don't really understand what that was all about. But she had come and seen me perform, and I was like the big, whiz kid at the time, and doing things like getting lead roles when I was an undergraduate, and I was stealing all the roles from all the graduate students, and so I was making a big stink, and I was really full of myself. And anyway, she had come and seen me because he had said, "You got to see this guy." And so she had come and seen me do, I think, Look Homeward Angel. I had the lead in that or something at the university theater, main stage production. And so she, as a result of him saying, "You got to," and I had said to him, I think I had said to him just off the cuff, I had said to him, "So how do I get into this acting business?" And he said, "You know what? I'll get back to you on that." And what I didn't realize is he was going to talk to his wife. He hates my guts now, by the way. But back then he thought I was something special, and that lasted for about 10 minutes. And so she got me interviews with the biggest casting directors in Hollywood. And you won't know who this guy is. Laurence Olivier, a lot of you won't. Laurence Olivier, big Shakespearean. He was a huge film actor way back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and all that. And so I remember, this is an important thing. I went to an interview with this big, I wish I could remember the name of it, this huge agency that represented Laurence Olivier. And I went to some Beverly Hills swanky thing, and I showed up, and this was me. No, I don't have any pictures of me back then, but I wish I could find it. I was 20-something years old. I don't look anything like I do now. I was skinny, thick black hair, and green eyes, and about 145 pounds. I'm 200 pounds now, so you can imagine. And I went in all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, not knowing what the hell to expect. I didn't know anything. All I'd done is I'd just done a lot of acting in college theater, and that's really all I had done. And I showed up there with my resume, and I had a bunch of awards that I had won as a college actor, traveling around, and I'd won this really distinctive award, the Kennedy Center National Acting Award for something or other. I went and did that, and I won that. And so I thought I was something pretty special. But I walked in, and I was respectful, and I sat there, and I handed this agent my resume and my headshot, and she sat there and looked at it, and she got real funny looks on her faces, and she sat there and looked at me, and she said, "So how do you know Mally Finn, the casting director?" And I told her. She goes, "Oh, well, if Mally thinks you're something, you must be something." And then she looks at it, and she looks at me, and she says, "So we don't care how much talent or training you have." Now, I'm waiting for the rest of it. I'm waiting for but what we are looking for, now that second half never came. And I sat there looking. Yeah, I must have had that look on my face because I was like, okay, I'm waiting for the rest. Totally naive. And she sat there and looked at me and then looked at me like this, and then she started busting up laughing. She thought that was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. This college kid, totally wet under the ears, had no idea what the hell was going on. And then she gave me some bullshit crap about, well, we'd have you do this, we'd have you do that. But before that, she said, "It's not how good you are, it's who you know. And you don't know anybody, Junior." So that was the most truthful thing anybody ever said to me about Hollywood. We don't care how much talent or training you have. Any case, so here I am, and right about this time in my life, I was at 30, fast forward now, I'm out of college and all that, and I'm doing the thing, and I'm getting tired, and I'm getting ready to quit, because I'm running this theater company, I'm acting in main stage productions, I'm writing, directing, teaching, and I'm working 2 jobs, and I'm doing auditions, and I'm not getting anywhere, and I'm starting to get real burnt out. My dad dies, all this stuff happens. And so right about this time, I think this was about that time, you can look at me, look how skinny I was. So that was me back then, and that's me drumming with my friends, and so you could see there, can't see it, but I actually have hair there, black hair. It was about this time of my life that I got this opportunity to go do this, be the reader, Mally Finn. Mally Finn, I get this phone call from Mally Finn. I knew who she was, and I'm like, oh my God, is she going to ask me? And I get this phone call from Mally Finn, and she says, I think it was from her assistant. I think her daughter now, it could have been her daughter. Her daughter now is taking her place, and I don't remember who Mally Finn's daughter is, but she's doing all the big casting now in a lot of movies and stuff like that. So I get this message from probably Mally's daughter, but Mally's assistant saying, Mally Finn would like to hire you to come and be a reader for a film she's casting. And so work was work, man, and opportunity to go and meet directors and maybe audition, and so I was all over it. And I don't remember what they paid, but you're working like 8 hours a day. You show up and you're working and they're paying you not a lot. I mean, it couldn't have been a lot. I can't even remember, but it was probably like $10 an hour or something like that. But it was a potential opportunity in my mind. If I were to go back in time, I would have told myself, don't bother. Other than the experience of everything I learned in terms of a career, this is a waste of time. Don't even bother. So I can't remember if this was before or after, but another film that I was in, which if you want to go searching for another B horror movie, was Hellraiser Inferno. So now you can see the resemblance. There's me on the left. That's me as security guard in Hellraiser Inferno. And you can see the intense look on my face. I'm acting my balls off right there. And you can see that I look, if you squint your eyes, you could probably mistake me for Keanu Reeves. And again, I was probably about at that point, I think I was probably 160, 170 pounds. I was still pretty skinny. I wasn't anything like I am now. So this guy goes in, and I look like that, and I go in, and I get there, and so the way it works is, my job was to do what I'm doing now. I sat in a chair like this, And I had a script in front of me. Now they gave me a script and I took it home and they said, go and read this and focus on the character Neo. We want you to be playing the character Neo as people come in, and you're going to be Neo while they're auditioning. So all of them, Trinity, think of them, Tank, Dozer, all of them except for a couple of big names. I was auditioning people that were coming into play. The Agent Smith. There was a lot of people coming in for Agent Smith, big actors coming in for Agent Smith, and I'm the guy on the other end, and I'm reading Neo's part. I had that script. I had no idea what was going to happen. The feeling I got was that this was a cheesy, low-budget sci-fi film. The directors, the Wachowski brothers, they're now the Wachowski sisters, but back then they were the brothers. They, when I'm asking them about it, they were like, it's just like this sort of kung fu sci-fi, and they were really downplaying it, like it was just nothing. So I just, to be honest, half the time I didn't know what the hell was going on. Like the scene where, Neo and Agent Smith is there, and Agent Smith, shuts his mouth and says, "Well, what happens if you can't speak?" And I'm reading this, and I can't tell what the hell's going on. I'm asking, what is happening here? So it was really strange that they didn't tell me what was going on. But I did my best. So now when I watched The Matrix last night because it came up on Netflix, and so I thought I'd watch it, and it just brought back all these memories, and it made me remember how every time I hear Neo speak, there's this recognition that comes from me. Now, if you're an actor and you've ever memorized a script, there's this replay that goes on in your head, when you hear dialogue. And it's not the same as remembering a movie. When you remember a movie, you remember the actor. You remember the intonation in his voice. You remember the music. And so you can go along and say it exactly like the actor said it in the movie. But when you memorize a script, it comes back the way you memorized it. So as I'm watching the movie and I'm hearing what's his name, Keanu Reeves speaking his lines as Neo, I'm like having this little internal dialogue of the way I had done it and did it every day for I don't even know how many weeks. So here's the thing. I wish I had known this. I wish I had known this as an actor, because again, I would have told myself, don't waste your time. Nothing's going to happen in this. If you want to make $10 an hour, go do it. Other than that, do something else if you got something better to do. Because the directors had no power. Now, nobody had heard of them. Nobody knew who the Wachowski brothers were. They were nobodies. And so they didn't have any power. Now, I didn't know that. I thought the directors had all the power. And at one point, I had said to Mally and to whoever else, I said, I would really love to read for Agent Smith. And part of the reason that they talked me into doing it was they said, and it'll give us an opportunity to read you. We'll find a part for you. They gave me that spiel as well. They did that without actually promising it, which is Hollywood. When it comes to Hollywood, it's never going to happen until the check is cashed. Until the check is cashed, it's all talk. And so, they're like, we'll find a part for you and we'll get you to audition, and you're such a great actor and we need you for this because, and they had, I forget, who is the guy who played in Twin Peaks? Who was the lead in that? You know who I'm talking about? I'm so bad. My memory's so bad now for some reason. But that guy, he was a big star back then. And this is to me an example of how cheesy the whole scenario is. So I'm there every day. The directors are there, and they really don't have any say. Mally Finn is the one that has all the say in what's happening here. And I'm going to tell you first how all the casting is done. This is what I've learned after being a reader on a couple different films and talking to people. And I have a good friend who's now a big-time director in Hollywood. And I found out from him during doing a reading for him, all the stuff that happens. But what happens is that when a big movie studio gets a hold of a script and decides to make a movie, if they have newbie directors, unknown directors, the directors are just lucky that they have a film that's going to be made, and that's it. That's the best, that their job is just they get to direct their film that they wrote, writer, directors. But everything else is going to be controlled by whoever has the money. So what happens is, what they really do is they've already decided who they want in the movie. They've got a handful of big stars that they want in the movie, and then they're gonna find, if they need to, they'll find somebody to audition for the smaller parts. The please, where is the bathroom? Like me in Hellraiser Inferno, you know, security guard number one or whatever. They'll find an actor for that from working actors, or actors that are out there, struggling actors. And then all of the other parts are going to be cast. They've already cast it because all of the producers have cousins or aunts or nieces and nephews or sons and daughters or girlfriends or mistresses or something like that. Those are going to get all cast. So all of the big roles have been cast, and a lot of the middle roles and small roles are going to go to everybody's friend. But for some reason, they have to, I guess, show investors or something. So they have to do this casting call. And they'll spend weeks doing these castings, and they will bring in hundreds of actors that they have no intention of casting. And it's just because, so they get to say to the investors or to the higher ups or whatever, oh yeah, we auditioned 700 actors for this movie, when in reality they already know from the beginning who they're going to cast. I know because I sat in and I listened. I listened as the producers came in and talked to the casting director. I heard it all. And then it was just like, man, this thing is rigged. Forget about it. What am I doing? So Kyle MacLachlan, that's the guy's name. Kyle MacLachlan comes in and he's reading for Agent Smith. And he comes and sits across with me, and he's sitting there and he's reading. We're basically doing a scene together. We're doing scene such and such. And we're acting together, and I'm playing Neo, and he's playing Agent Smith, and we're doing all those scenes. And I did that all day. A bunch of people coming in, auditioning for Agent Smith, and I'm doing that scene. I probably played that scene more times than Keanu Reeves did. And so after he left, the assistant to the casting director, who she was pretty young herself and a little naive, we were all very naive about this, turns to Mally Finn and says, Kyle MacLachlan, does he usually have to read for parts like this? And Mally Finn says, no, but I already know that he's not right for the part, and I just needed to prove to myself and have him come in and read that he was not right for the part. So what the assistant was talking about is that when you get to a level A, level B actor, you don't have to audition. You just say, I want to be in that movie, and they say yes or no. You don't have to come in and audition. So she was purposefully humiliating this very successful actor who had been in movies. He was in Dune. He had already been in Dune by that time. He had been in Twin Peaks. And so his career had gone way up. And so he was, on his, that's what happens. He was on his way down a little bit. And so she just needed to humiliate him and make him feel bad. Let me give you another experience that happened to me. The same thing. Now, here's the other thing they do. So there's the actors that are on their way down, and the casting directors want to humiliate them and force them to read, and then don't give them the part. Treat them just like struggling actors. And then there's the struggling actors who all are in it, and they come and they audition for everything, and they're used to it. They do it all day. They're working in restaurants. Oh, beeper goes off. I got to go to an audition. And they rush off and change and go and look at the thing, and then go and act their brains out, and then go back and put their apron on and go back to work. And then there are these up-and-comers. So these are actors or celebrities or comedians who are starting to get a buzz. And what the film companies, studios want to do is, if there's somebody that's up and coming that isn't famous yet, but they can see he's going to break through and he's going to be famous, then what ends up happening is that, sorry, I got distracted by a text. What ends up happening then is the up and comers get to have a meeting. Now, they still have to come in and meet the directors and meet the casting director and maybe producers. Producers will show up for meetings. And producers, if you don't know what a producer is somebody who's an executive who's in charge of the money. Now, let me make sure you understand how this works. Again, this is all stuff I had to learn the hard way there. Again, if you're thinking of going to Hollywood and it's going to be fun, you're just dealing with a bunch of hard work and crazy, just mind-numbing, boring garbage. I mean, if you love to act, that's going to be 1% of your work. The 99% of your work is all the drudgery that goes into trying to get into a movie. So producers in movie studios are not artists. They're not actors, they're not screenwriters, they're not directors, they're not even people who have any artistic bones in their body. They are people who went to MBA schools and got their MBA in something or other, and they're all about helping giant corporations make shitloads of money. That's what they do. So they're looking at a movie as, how can we turn this into a huge amount of money for ourselves and our investors? They could care less about anything else. So when they show up for a meeting, it's because they're wanting to see how marketable is this guy. They have no interest in whether or not he's right for the part or anything like that. Casting directors. Let me talk to you about casting directors, because I used to go to these casting directors workshops. Which is, you're supposedly going to learn from a casting director. Here's what I learned by doing those. Now, I did this because, agents and stuff say, oh, you got to go to this, because what they really want, it's a way to audition for casting directors, so that casting directors can see you and then maybe call you in for something if you are right for something. But here's what I found out about casting directors. Now, bear in mind, I had spent 4 years in college. I had spent another 5-6 years running my own theater company, learning and reading about Shakespeare and reading about textual criticism and character and art and language, and a good actor is very smart. They've learned a lot, and they know a lot about art, and they know a lot about performance and about getting people to understand concepts through performance and acting and all that. And here you've got people running the show who are complete, total morons when it comes to art. They don't have the first clue about what art is. And so casting directors, now you think a casting director, well, they have to know how to judge an actor, and is there somebody good, and do they know their craft, and blah, blah, blah. Because at least 70% of the time you come in and you're reading across from the casting director who's trying to act, and they're horrible. And so you're trying to act across a moron who doesn't have any clue what they're doing with the script. They don't even know what the hell acting is. And I learned that, at least in one case, and I found out this was the case in all of them, this one very famous, I forget her name, casting director in Hollywood, how she got to be a casting director was, she worked in the mailroom. She worked in the mail room, where the mail would come in, and she'd sort the mail and take it into a thing and bring it up to all the executives' office. And from that, she made her way to other menial tasks of bringing coffee and doing that. And from that, she became a casting director. And I'm sitting there listening to this casting director who thinks that she's telling us this really great Hollywood success story, and all I can think is, oh my God, you don't have the first clue about art or drama or theater or acting. What the hell is going on here? Another thing they do is this. Have you ever noticed that you'll find actors, until they break out and they really make a name for themselves and can do whatever they want, you'll find this, and try and prove me wrong. Actors, if they get known, like they get their first breakout movie is in science fiction. Let's say they play an alien in a science fiction movie. From then on out, they will only be considered in science fiction movies. Even if in the science fiction movie they're playing a therapist or somebody's accountant, it won't matter. It's in a science fiction movie. That's how idiot these people are. They are such morons that they go, oh, that's so and so. Oh, she only does sci-fi, right? And then I'm like, it's an actor. They play different people. You don't have to only cast them as an alien. Just so that whole typecasting thing, that's very real, and it's because the casting directors are morons. They have no ability to think beyond what's right in front of them. It's. I'll give you another story. So this is again towards the end of my. Um, sorry, I just have to respond to this text. I got an audition. um, so I was working with this manager. So by the way, a manager is really nothing special. A manager is just most of the time is an agent that can't really get an agency, so they call themselves a manager. Um, um, sorry. 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 Uh, um, Sorry, I'm just about to be done. I just have to tell them where I'm going to. Sorry, I'm going as fast as I can. Okay, I'm done. I swear. All right. So I am at the end of this journey. I'm about to quit my. I'm about to walk away from acting. I'm so tired and burnt out, and it's just awful. And I'm so tired of the idiots that are running the thing, and all of that. So I get this manager. I I don't know if I had an agent at that time. I had gone through a couple of agents. I could tell you about that too. I won't waste your time with that. So I get this manager, and I'm 5'8" and a half, 5'9" on a good day. Bear in mind, huge stars: Sylvester Stallone, Tom Cruise, uh, Pacino, De Niro. They're all my height. They're all about even shorter than me, between 5'6" and 5'9". Huge, big leading men are not very tall, right? So I show up, and I got this manager, and he says, "Hey, I want to say that you're 5'11". Can you get lifts for your shoes? And I said, no, I'm not 5'11". And if I get a part where I have to be 5'11", that's very easily fixed because they have things called apple boxes and you can stand on those. And I went through what I just told you. I said, look at all these guys. They're my height and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going that just puts me in a bad position where after I've got the part, then I have to say, oh yeah, I lied about my height. I said, I'm not going to do that. So he really pushed me on that, and I said, no, that's a deal breaker for me. I can't do that. So he goes, okay, all right, no, don't worry. Then he sends me on this audition, and it's a great audition for some film or something. I don't know. And the part was just, it was such a great part. So I get this, this what they call the sides, and I'm going over it, and I'm memorizing the sides, and I'm doing that, and and I go to the audition, and I do the audition, and it's like I kick the crap out of this thing. I just knock it in the park. And this guy goes, whoever the supposed casting director of this movie is, says, wow, that was really something there. You really did it. And he says, how would you feel about wearing lifts? And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I went, fuck. This is his friend. This is the manager's friend, and he's set up this bullshit audition just to have this guy ask me if I'm willing to wear lifts. And I don't remember what I said because once I knew, I didn't get the part because it didn't exist. It was bullshit, and I knew that this guy was bullshitting me, and so I fired him. I didn't even bother calling him on. I just fired him, and that was one of the last things. And I almost left, and that's when I made my own film. I ended up making my own film, which didn't go anywhere either, and I have it somewhere on giant, huge, VHS, whatever, somewhere in Washington State. Let's see, where is that? Do I have it? Where is it? Anyway, I got it here somewhere. I'll try and show it to you. Is this it? That's not it. Anyway. So, back to the Matrix film. So the Matrix film, as I'm sitting there reading across from all of these people, I pretty much ruined any chance I could have had with this casting director, Mally Finn. After watching her want to destroy these people's reputations, I didn't tell you about the part what happened. So the big guys get the part; they don't have to read. Then there's the struggling actors; they all have to come and read. And then there's the up and comers. These are people who are about to be famous. And what happens is the studio will schedule a meeting with the up and comers, and the studio does that because they hear rumors that this kid, whoever it is going to be huge, and he's got already 5 movie deals or something like that. So we need to get this guy in because we want to be there and have him in the movie as he's breaking out. And they get him early so that they can get him cheap. See what I'm saying? It's all about how much money they can get. And so for these meetings, they would sit in a room, and there would be the directors, there would be the casting director, and then whoever else, executives and producers from the studio would show up for that. So I'm there one day, and I'm listening, and then a few people come in, I audition them, and then they go, and then, oh, so-and-so, the up-and-coming new comedic whatever is coming in, and I'm sitting there, I'm not acting across from anybody, so I'm just sitting there, twiddling my thumbs. And then the guy shows up, and then Mally Finn says, "Oh, Mike, will you come in? We're going to go in this room." And I'm like, "Are you sure you need me?" She says, "Oh, yes, we need you." I'm like, "Well, am I going to act there in front of?" I didn't know what was going on. So, and they had me wearing a tie. So I had a shirt and a tie, and I'm sitting there. And so I'm sitting next to producer B, and then Mally's over here, and then the directors are over there, and the new guy, who's probably has less experience than I do in acting in movies and all that, he comes in and sits down, and this happened 2 or 3 times. And then Mally Finn says, upcoming star, this is the directors, the Wachowski brothers, and this is so-and-so, the head of such and such, and this is so-and-so, and this is da-da-da-da, and this is Michael Denny. And so they're going around, and they're, like shaking everybody's hand, and then they get to me, and there's this look on their face like, who is this guy? and I'm sitting there going, yeah, who am I? Why am I shaking his hand? She didn't say, this is Michael Denny, he's an actor reading and helping us cast the film as playing an actor. They just said, this is Michael Denny. And you can see the terror in the person's face because they don't know who I am and how is he supposed to treat me and all of that. And again, what I learned was that she just got off. She got off on making actors uncomfortable. And what I came to realize is this. What I came to realize is that, and she wasn't alone in this, by the way, is that if somebody's up and coming, they would kiss their ass. Of course, if they're a big star, they would kiss their ass. But if you're just your average working actor, then they're going to try and make you feel like crap. And if you're some up and comer, they're going to see if they can mess you up in the head. If they can mess with your head and get you doubting yourself. I mean, it was like she's this casting director, and I'm thinking to myself, why isn't she working to make everybody look good and feel good? Why is she doing all these mind games to make people fall apart? Anyway, so that was my experience with The Matrix, and then for Hellraiser Inferno, I could talk about that for a little bit. In case you want to go look for that, you can find that. That's me acting my brains out right there in Hellraiser Inferno. Same thing. A friend of mine who I went to college with. I went to college with him in Christian college, if you can believe it. And we were like very good friends, and we acted together. And I felt he kind of looked up at me back then. And then I went off to study theater, and he went off to study directing at USC, and he obviously got that. And I used to act in his his student films. In fact, he made Hellraiser Inferno. They gave him that because he made a student film that I was in, and they liked it so much that then they gave him, I don't know, whatever it was, a few $1,000s to make a test shoot where you shoot a few different scenes from the film, and they give you a budget and they give you a crew and all that. And so I got to play the lead in that. So I got this really great thing to put on my reel, with all the, the full editing and sound effects and all that, because they just wanted to see one scene. And if they did good with that one scene, then they'd give them the film. And so I did that, and he got me in that, and I was the lead for that. And I feel like I helped make this guy's career. And then he got the movie, and he calls me. He says, "I got the movie, and I want you to be in it. I really do. But I don't know, blah 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 blah. But come in and be the reader for us when we do the casting. Come in and be the reader, and we'll find something for you. We'll get you in. And if I can get you in the lead, I will." And I'm like, "Yeah, if I could get a lead in a Hellraiser movie, that would be great." And so I get in there, and the same kind of deal's going on. And what I found out is that the director has no power. Zero. Because I was like, afterwards, I'm like, "Dude, what the hell, man? You have been telling me all these years that it's you and I together, and we're going to make it, and I'm your bud, and I made your career. What the hell? The best you could get me was and this is a B horror movie, and the best you can get me is the security guard." And he said, "Dude, that was the best I could do. I had no power." And he went in and he explained to me that what ends up happening is that all the producers are going to give all the parts to all of their friends and family and all that, and they're going to try and get some big name in the lead, and then everything else is just up for grabs. And I had no say in it whatsoever. That's what he told me anyway. I think he was telling the truth. But that was interesting as hell, man. So anyway, that was my experience with The Matrix. And so when I watch it now, the same thing happened with Reservoir Dogs. I wasn't a reader for that, but I auditioned for it. I auditioned for Mr. Pink. And I read for that. And I just remember now, every time I see Reservoir Dogs, I hear, "Oh my God, I would have done that so much differently. And oh, that's so bad." And when I watch The Matrix, I go, "Oh my God, that's so bad. Oh, I would have done that so much more differently." Anyway, so I thought that might be fun. People have been asking me about some of my experiences. Let me share with you in case you give a crap. And I'm starting to feel really self-conscious now. Like, why did I make this video? But what the hell? What do I care? So this was me in Hellraiser Inferno. I got that off of a screenshot off of somewhere on the net. Somewhere somebody had that, and it has my name out there. If you look for it, my name will show up somewhere. Hellraiser Inferno, Michael Denny. I got to play in this really cool movie. Well, there were some cool things about this movie, and I was given a lot of freedom in this, and this was an independent film. I wrote it down here already, Shadow Glories, which now, if you get it on DVD, if it's even still around, it came out in 2001. Great timing there. That was then changed to called The Fight, in case you ever want to see that or watch that. And my biggest claim to fame was that I had already, where was I? Where the hell was I? I had moved. I think I had moved. I had given up on acting, and I had moved, and I was living in Idaho. And the film The Fight was in Blockbuster Video. Like, if you walked into Blockbuster Video, there was a big poster of me, doing this thing, and you could go rent me. And so I went, and I was telling somebody in the car, "Yeah, I've got a video." And they're like, "No, you don't." I said, "Yeah, I do. Come on." And we went into Blockbuster, and I said, "Look, there I am." And we pulled out the thing, and I said, "There's me." And anyway, that was fun. But that tanked really bad. Let me share a real funny story about that too. So here's the thing about intending your reality. Now we're getting to what I do now, teaching people how to intend their reality. There was a point towards the end of my acting career where I was giving up on acting altogether. And I said, and I was like in tears. I said to the universe, whoever, I said, "I just want to see my face on the big screen in a movie theater screening a movie that I'm in, that I have a leading part. I just want to be able to see that up on the screen just once, right? And you got to be careful what you say. It's exactly what happened. So I got the same guys that I created the theater company with. One of them went on, and he was able to get this deal directing a film that another guy in our theater company had written, and it was sort of going to be like our breakout thing. You know, he wrote it, and he starred in it, and I got to star in it, and they gave me a lot of leeway on this part, because the part that they had written was the bad guy, and he was written so two-dimensionally. I said, listen, we got to give this guy something else. You got to let me help write some of it. And they did. Strangely enough, I don't know why, but they let me like write whole scenes for this guy. And they put it in the film. And so I played Killer Kaczynski. That's me. That's a shot in between fight. And you can see that I've got a tattoo there. So they had a tattoo artist, and they would every day, you know, paint fake tattoos on here and on the back of my head and all that. And actually, I wasn't bald then. I'm bald now, but I shaved my head now. But I had shaved my head for that to try and make this guy look as bad as possible. You can see the fake scar and all that stuff. And you can see that my beard is not gray there, because that's in the year 2000. But I think I haven't aged a whole hell of a lot. And so that's a screenshot from one of the fight scenes. I'm getting ready to try and beat somebody up, but he was actually the hero of the scene, so he kicks my ass in that scene. And that's taken after the big fight, and the blood on my face and all you can see all the makeup. It's supposed to look like I got my ass kicked, and I'm pretending to be a badass right there. And that's me in one of the scenes where I did actually win a fight. My character actually won a fight, and there I am with blood all over my face, and I've got his blood all over me and all that kind of stuff. And, there was a story I was telling about that. I can't remember what it was. I got all kinds of stories about that. Anyway, I just thought I would share some of my experience, because people have been asking me that you say you're an actor, blah, blah, blah. Can you tell us some stories about Hollywood? So I thought I would. And since I watched The Matrix last night, it just brought back all of these feelings. Oh, I forgot to tell the story. So in this movie went on, and it was called Shadow Glories. And 2001, 9/11 happened right before this movie was going to start its nationwide release. And so what ended up happening is, because of 9/11, right as this thing comes out, it's about a woman, a female boxer, and it's about her, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's anyway, and I'm like this big badass, and she has to go up against me, and the whole movie is about, you know, she's going to fight me in the ring for some, you know, whatever. And because it was just 9/11, nobody wanted to watch a movie about a woman, you know, getting beat up in the ring. Nobody wanted to see that. So that movie just died, and it died on the East Coast. So when it was released, which was literally like a week after 9/11. In fact, I remember flying to the premiere in Maine, because that's where we shot it, and they were going to start in Maine and then open it up all over the whatever. And I remember flying over there, and New York was still smoldering. The Twin Towers, the smoke was still coming up from the Twin Towers. It was that, you know, it was right after that. And so I get there, and remember I had said earlier that I had said to the universe, just let me see my face huge on the big screen in a real movie that's released to the public, that people have to pay money to come and sit in and watch it. I just want to sit in that theater and see. I've worked so hard. And sure enough, right after the release of that, they have it in the local theater, and I show up. And I don't know how many people were there. There weren't a lot. You know, it was like, I wanted to walk in to just like a matinee show. And I walk in, and there's probably like 10 or 15 people, I think. It wasn't a lot. And I go and sit somewhere in the front, because I'm like, I want to see my face up on the screen. And I get there, and people are like, Now, I had grown my hair back and shaved, but people are still like, and I go and I sit and think, okay, and there's 10 or 15 or 20 people, I don't know. There was some people in. And then I'm watching the movie, and about halfway through, I get the impetus to look behind me. And I look behind me, and there's nobody in the theater. And I'm right there in the front row watching myself. And it just all came flooding back to me, and the universe said, that's what you wanted. Here you go. So the point is, you got to be very specific about what you ask for, because you'll get exactly what you ask for. And I got exactly what I wanted, and I laughed. And anyway, I still laugh about it now. Anyway, I seriously doubt there's any questions on here, but if anybody wants to ask something stupid about Hollywood, I'll answer. Let's see. Kyle McLaughlin. Yeah, thank you. What else? Yeah, no questions. Yo, Morpheus, does learning acting help in magic or ritual? That's actually a good question. The honest truth to that is absolutely yes. Because the truth is, for me, I can't speak for all actors, but for me, I would become whoever. I would literally create an unconscious mind, and I would, that whole thing about creating a story and a character and a life and all that. I would create all of that, and I would live that, and I would study that and emotionally invest in that, so that when I showed up, I didn't have to try and be somebody else. I would be that character. And I didn't know it at the time, but the way shamans work, Huna shamans, is they learn to replicate emotions, because they believe that if they can replicate an emotion, they can create through that emotion. So the short answer is yeah. And the other thing I realized is that, I don't know how long ago it was, I was reading about what makes a druid, and the 20 years of training that a druid has to go through. And they learn, they start with learning poetry, and then they learn acting, and then they learn herbs, and then they learn magic, and then they learn philosophy. And I don't know what it is, but whatever it was, I looked at it and I said, that's my life. Because whatever it was that they learned in the order that they learned it, I learned it. And acting was one of them. So absolutely. Learning how to act is really act is an absolute precursor if you want to be a master shaman. Very important. And it's I'm not going to say it's necessary, but it certainly is something that, druids did it and Huna shamans do it. So, two very powerful traditions have that as your training, to be an actor, to be a storyteller. A true storyteller, when you're like, if you're telling a story or reciting a mythology and, you're playing different characters, if you really do it right, it's a magical thing where you bring people in and they see it and experience it. And I know, because I've experienced it as an actor, there's nothing more powerful than being in a live theater situation. And sometimes there was one time, in our theater, 2 people showed up and we said, we're still doing it. We did the whole production for 2 people. And it was no less powerful for anybody, because that was my job. My job was to give, when I was acting, my job was every person sitting in that seat, I wanted them to have an experience. And if one person has an amazing, life-changing experience, that is as amazing as a billion people having a life-changing experience. So for me, that's what acting was all about. And so I enjoyed acting for one person or, a full house. It was all the same to me. Anyway. All right, so that's it for me, guys. I thought I would share that with you. And I was just going to make a film. I was just going to make a video and talk about it, but I thought I would bring it on in case there was any questions, which it doesn't bother me that there aren't. I don't blame you. I wouldn't ask any questions either. But there it is. So that was my experience working as a reader for the Matrix film and for Hellraiser Inferno. So when you watch the Matrix again, and every single line that Neo says, I acted them out before he even knew they were there. And I wish I had kept the script. As I remember, I had this inkling that I should keep the script, and I didn't. And I wish I had, because if I had gotten the Wachowski brothers autographs on it and kept that, that would have been. Can you imagine what that'd be worth now? Silly of me. Hellraiser Inferno. I mean, that's not a big film, but I should have done the same thing with that too. Yeah, if you want to see me in that, you can go rent Hellraiser Inferno. You can go on to YouTube and see Shadow Glories and see me in my heyday. Of actually the end of my heyday. That was the last big film thing I tried to do. And that's all. All right, so that's it from me, guys. Thanks a lot. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Wait. That's not what I want to do. I want to do this, and then I want to do this.